The Wolf, Khamzat Chimaev, is set to take on Colby Chaos Covington, with the winner becoming the #1 contender for the UFC welterweight title. I don't know about you, but that's exciting news. And although the UFC hasn't officially confirmed it, rumors going around suggest it will be the co-main event at UFC 285 to be held in London. There are a lot of juicy stories surrounding this matchup, so let's really not waste any more of your time and get right into the video. The UFC president Dana White confirmed in an interview that Khamzat will be facing Colby as the co-main event of UFC 285. And while most fans doubted if Colby would take the fight, he actually did. So all that's left now is to fill up the paperwork, and it's a deal. This fight is so exciting because Colby will be a massive test of Khamzat's strength, believe it or not. Most times we seem to forget how brutal Colby actually is because of his trash talks and numerous controversies. But in reality, Colby is that guy that might be capable of matching Khamzat's wrestling skill set in the octagon. His recent fight record doesn't actually portray this, but he stands a huge chance. Just like Chimaev, Colby also has a very solid wrestling background. We saw how he used it in the Jorge Masvidal fight to get a crystal clear unanimous decision win. And if you go further back to his days at Central Iowa Community College, he was the first wrestler ever to go undefeated with a 34-0 record. Khamzat, on the other hand, did things on a different level. And what we mean by that is, he was never beaten as a wrestler. Never. Not as a junior and not as a senior. Never. But here's the little loophole that Colby can exploit. When it comes to wrestling, Khamzat is so powerful, he empties the tank very early. Apart from his Gilbert Burns fight, every other fight of Khamzat's has ended within the first 2 rounds. And maybe that's why he's so dominant. But if you recall the 3rd round of the Gilbert Burns fight, Khamzat's cardio was giving up. He emptied the tank so much in the first 2 rounds, he became sloppy in the 3rd. Another instance of what we're talking about here happened at UFC 279. Khamzat used up so much power to drag the living daylight out of Kevin Holland that if Khamzat didn't win in that round, he might have been in huge trouble. Even Daniel Cormier and Joe Rogan commented about this during the commentary of the fight. What we're trying to say here is, if Colby can withstand the overwhelming power of Khamzat's wrestling for the first 2 rounds, then he's got a good shot at winning the fight. This is also the reason why many fans and pundits are suggesting the UFC makes it a 5-round fight and not 3. We've never seen Khamzat in a 5-round fight, and we have no idea if he can go the distance. But for Colby, it's different. Colby's last 6 fights in the UFC have been 5 rounds. He's not new to the scene, so that would be his advantage. If Khamzat, of course, doesn't knock him out in the first round. Anyway, these are all speculations. Let's talk about what's factual with this fight. #1 is Jorge Masvidal trying to get a shot at Khamzat Chimaev. Jorge Masvidal, who we clearly haven't seen since the alleged Covington attack early in 2022, shared his thoughts after Chimaev's fight at UFC 274 by saying, "That was supposed to be his coming out party, and it didn't go according to plan." A lot of people felt Gilbert won that fight. A lot of people still think Gilbert won that fight. I don't really think Khamzat is as good as they say he is. I'm more of a see than believe guy, and I haven't seen anything that makes me a believer in this guy yet. I personally would love to break his face. Once he starts selling pay-per-views and shit like that, I wouldn't mind breaking his fucking face. And of course, Khamzat Chimaev, being quite the funny guy he is, posted a photo of Masvidal after he got knocked out by Kamaru Usman. #2 is Khamzat's missing weight at UFC 279. When Khamzat missed weight, we all speculated his move up to the middleweight division. However, in an interview with BT Sports, Dana White confirmed that Khamzat wants to fight at 170, so the UFC is willing to give him a second chance. #3 is Belal Muhammad. Now we know Belal is not really the type of guy to make noise on the internet, but this time, he's willing to go that far to secure himself a title fight. Belal showed at UFC 280 why he deserves to get a shot at the title after defeating Sean Brady, who was on a 15-fight win streak. In Belal's opinion, he should be the one going against Khamzat for the #1 contender spot, not Colby Covington. He didn't even believe Colby would accept the fight. I know there's talk about Chimaev against Colby, which doesn't make any sense, Muhammad told ESPN. I don't think Colby is going to show up. Colby doesn't fight tough fights. He doesn't fight guys that have a chance to beat him. Even if they make that fight, I don't think he's showing up. I don't think he's going to make it to wherever that fight is. He can talk a big game, but actions speak louder than words, and he hasn't fought anybody that's been winning. If you're looking at Khamzat, alright, you beat Gilbert, but what other ranked guy have you fought? Your last fight, you missed weight by 9 pounds. For me, it's either the title shot or Khamzat. I don't think there's anybody else that makes any sense. I'm not fighting down anymore. I think I earned it with this one, to fight up. Belal has a point, but the UFC might keep him around as a backup fighter if either Kamaru Usman or Leon Edwards step out of the fight for any reason. This news of Khamzat's fight with Covington is coming after we reported Khamzat's joining the Russian side in their fight against Ukraine, but thankfully this just confirms the stories were wrong, and he's not going to fight in any war, except a war inside the octagon come 2023. Moving away from the Colby Covington news, Khamzat Chimaev was at cageside for UFC 280 and had a little altercation with Khabib's cousin, Abubakar Nurmagomedov. While Islam Makhachev was having his octagon interview with Daniel Cormier, the fans spotted Khamzat and Abubakar having a little talk before they started exchanging blows. But according to Khabib, the elders of the different clans came together and the issue was resolved. Khamzat was also seen in a video with Islam Makhachev, Khabib, and a few other Russians after UFC 280. So come March 4th, 2023 at UFC 285 in London, who wins and becomes the #1 contender for the UFC welterweight title? Khamzat Chimaev or Colby Covington? Well, if these two engage in a striking fight, maybe Khamzat wins. We know he has that one-punch power to knock out his opponent. At least that's what his fight against Gerald Meerschaert in 2020 tells us. But if Covington can control the speed at which the fight goes, try to avoid those explosive takedowns from Khamzat and just fight him from outside the clinch, then yes, Colby Covington has a very good shot at winning. And finally, if the fight is taken to the ground, it can go either way. Khamzat is very good, and Covington is equally good, but maybe not as good as Khamzat. But if the fight does go to the ground, there's a 60% chance Khamzat gets a submission win. You should check out one of the videos shown on your screen right now. They've got juicy stories too. See you next time, and bye!